everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Between Sessions with Berries. Today's guest is a dear friend of mine, and she is an amazing human being. Her name is Amber Lyda. She's a licensed psychologist turned business coach for therapists who are ready to build their lives that they actually want to live. After burning out from the traditional therapy grind, Amber rebuilt everything, creating a thriving online private pay practice and eventually transitioning into full-time coaching. Now she helps therapists build sustainable online practices, attract private pay clients, and turn their passions into income streams that bring freedom and joy. She's also the host of a wildly popular Facebook group with over 25,000 clinicians. Amber's here to talk about boundaries, marketing, side hustles, and how she got her time and her life back by outsourcing what drains her, including things like documentation. So we're going to cover it all today, Amber. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for being a guest on our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So you've been super open about burning it all down and starting over. Can you tell us about that turning point and what made you realize something had to change in your life?
Yeah, I think like a lot of people that I know, I was dreaming for a bigger, better future. I was putting in the time and doing all the quote right things. And I just kept waiting, thinking, all right, well, I know I want to travel a lot. I know I want to make sure that I'm financially secure before I do that. And that turned into like years and years and years of waiting. And then major like life explosion, a relationship I'd been in for over a decade, just poof, went away overnight unexpectedly. And I went from waiting to make that dream happen to watching the person that I had built that dream with go and live it. And I was like, this is not for me. The sideline in life is not for me. So I just got really clear that I was not going to wait anymore and decided to make things happen.
So what did those early steps look like that you went through when you first started building an online private pay practice? Because I guess that's what we're talking about. We back up a little bit, and of course, I know your history and everything. You used to work and have to commute and do all this stuff, and then you moved into just building this online thing. So let's talk about that. How did you go to transition into this step-by-step process of building an online private pay practice?
Well, I had been working in university counseling centers, which are the cushiest of the cushy, community mental health. It's a real sweet gig. And I was getting paid well. I loved my work. I loved the people that I worked with. But I was working almost exclusively and not really living life outside of that. And then you add in a 10-hour commute, and hyperachiever work hours are different than normal people work hours. And so I just started thinking, how can I reclaim time? And really that's been a theme throughout every transition that I've made since then. How do I reclaim time and remain as free as possible? So I knew, okay, when I leave here, it's going to need to be online. And I didn't know anyone except one person who had an online practice at the time. And it was actually the owners of iTherapy. I had happened to like work with her somewhere and heard her talking about it. And I was like, oh, that's going to be an option for me one day. So I called her up and said, like, talk me through as many details as you can. And I'm a big researcher, so I got lots of information, and I'm a big worrier. So I worried through a lot of that information and found out this is actually totally doable. Set up an online therapy practice. And then in terms of like step by step, I had an awesome boss who let me take my vacation time to build up my practice. So I took a half day every week to work on my practice and then to start seeing clients. And when I ran out of vacation time, he let me use time off without pay, which let me keep my insurance and benefits a little bit longer than I might have been able to otherwise. And that was just such a freaking blessing because it allowed me to create a little bit of a cushion so that when I went into my online private practice, I wasn't just immediately like, oh crap, I have to pay all my bills. So I'd seen maybe like 2-3 people before I left that job. And then by the time I fully left, I was deep into marketing world and had already started bringing clients in more consistently. It was a really nice off-ramp.
I love that story so much. And so what year are we talking? Like, when was all this happening for you?
This was 2015.
Okay, so like way before telehealth, that was a thing, even for therapists, yeah.
Yeah.
And I tell this story all the time, you guys. I should share it. Amber is my dear friend now, but I did not know Amber, and I just found her online therapist group on Facebook back in 2018. I was actually in Mexico and just like I just met a friend for lunch that lived in Mexico. I'm like, how the hell is this woman living in Mexico? And then I found Amber's online therapist group at the same time. And I'm like, who is this chick talking about having an online therapy practice? So I owe like my entire like life and where I've ended up to finding Amber back in, I guess it was 2017 when I really found you. And then I went all online in 2018 because, I mean, you've just been an inspiration for so many people to be able to do this online practice thing. So I love to share that story that you've just been around and you're like really the guru of starting online practices. You really are a research freak too. I mean, you know all the details. You like don't want to get in trouble, so you're like so thorough with that stuff. I think you're like such the trusted resource for taking a practice online, just like going all online and being completely remote and mobile wherever you want to be in the world, really.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate that very much. And what I have learned in this therapist space is that the people who want more freedom, like you, are going to find a way to get there because we've reached that point in our lives where we're like, nah, I'm not going to live like this anymore. So I'm glad that was part of your journey, but whether you had met me or not, I guarantee you would have found a way.
Definitely. I guess COVID forced us all, but gosh, yeah, it sure helped me along in 2018. It just felt like so much freedom. And like I just gotten a life back, you know, to be able to just go wherever I wanted to go and have that practice just with me. Yeah, it's amazing.
It is a dream life. I mean, it's such a lucky blessing, privilege, all the things. And I think about it virtually every day, how lucky we are to get to do this.
Yeah, it's amazing. So part of what you do and what I've learned from you and lots of people learn from you is about boundaries. So you talk a lot about boundaries and how they helped you reclaim your time and energy. What do you think were the hardest boundaries for you to put in place at first when you were just first starting out with like trying to do better care for yourself and your life and have this practice that you love and all of that?
Opportunities, saying no to opportunities. That was really tough. And there were two opportunities happening, and it will happen for you guys too. So, as the college counseling center staff came to know that I was leaving, I got a lot of pushback from some people like, this isn't possible, this isn't ethical, this can't be legal, blah, blah, blah. But I also got a lot of people privately coming to me and being like, oh my gosh, you should do X, Y, Z. I mean, the number of ideas that people had about how I should live my life because I was getting free and they wanted to be free. I mean, I had people like, you should go be a psychologist on cruise ships and you should, teach online and all of these things. And I had never run a private practice, much less one that was online. So it was tempting sometimes to be like, well, I do know how to teach and there's this online professor job and it would pay well and it would be secure. It was hard to say no and hold my boundaries around some of those things. But I just kept reminding myself, like, it's not just about being online, it's also about time freedom. So if I take that job or this opportunity, here's a way that that's going to limit my time freedom or my location independence. And so I just kept pursuing the one path, but it was tough.
Oh, I hear you. Yeah, so really having that vision already, like, I know I don't want to work Fridays and late nights and whatever, and I'm just building this thing and I'm not going to go outside of this box of exactly how I want this thing to look for me. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we could talk about boundaries forever, but that definitely is key, because I hear it all the time. It's like, gosh, they want me to do a sliding scale or they want me to like go pro bono for a couple of sessions and maybe I should. And it's one client on a Saturday morning, I could probably do that. Like it's so tempting to just fall into that trap of making opportunities, I guess, to make more money or to be more flexible, that sort of thing. But then we forget ourselves, we lose ourselves in that. So it's just
over
like,
and over
yeah.
again. And I did the same thing with sliding scale. And I guess my advice to my older, former self would be anytime you make one of those decisions, make sure it has a deadline on it. So, all right, if you're going to slide your scale and you're agreeing to do that, then say, listen, I'm going to do it for a month and make it way shorter than you think you're going to want to do because you can always extend it. But if you've promised it for a year or implied that it's indefinite, boy, it's a lot harder to change that.
Such good advice. Keep it really time limited. And then you can reevaluate if it's something you want to keep doing.
And clients respond a lot better to you saying, listen, I'm going to give you an extra month at that reduced fee than they do of you saying, I know it probably sounded like this was forever, but
by the way, I'm sick of doing it.
Yeah, that works less well. Still doable.
That's so funny. So shifting gears a little bit, because I don't know if everybody knows this about you, but on top of building online practices, you're also like this amazing side hustle creator. So you help people build these side hustles that make their lives more sustainable and exciting. It could bring in more income outside of that one-to-one model. And I know a lot of therapists, they really want to do that. They want to have some other income stream coming in, but they say they don't have the time to start something like that or to research how to do it. So what do you say about that, to just continue on the theme of like adding more time and freedom into your life? Like, how do you help people with that? That's like, I know I could do this or that, but how do I do this? So what do you think?
I had two pieces of advice. One would be that in order for you to start creating a side hustle, you have to have time to do it. That's just a reality. And you're going to need more time than you think, because it's not just learning how to do it and implementing how to do it, but you also have to be filling your creative well, which sounds like, oh no, that's just a want. No, my friend, it's a need. You need to be filling the creative well. And the only way to make more time is to make more money in less time. So my suggestion for people is learn how to market to private pay clients so that you can decrease the amount of hours that you're doing therapy and continue earning the same amount or more. And then you're going to have time opened up. And then you can decide, well, do I just want to go to the beach during this time because life is good? I don't need to keep adding more work. Or do I want to create some sort of side hustle? And then the second piece there is, if you definitely are going to move towards a side hustle, please don't buy the fanciest pants, everything that you can find to get started. I mean, the amount of money I see people spending in Kajabi or ThriveCard or these fancy software tools, y'all don't need that yet. You know, like we were well past multiple six figures a year before I left MailerLite and Teachable. Those were the things that I used for a long, long time. Learning curve is way less steep, however you say that correctly, and it's way cheaper. And it just makes more sense to do like the minimum viable product here, go the easiest route possible. And then when you need to level up, if you need to level up, you can do that later.
Absolutely. And maybe we should clarify too, when we're saying side hustles, we're basically talking about digital products that support the knowledge that you already have as a therapist, or courses or workshops, or becoming like a speaker, you know, in different places, ways to just kind of scale up and make more money and not have to be just stuck in that mold. And the things Amber's talking about is like basically what we use for funnels for these things, like Teachable, you know, place that house your courses, or MailerLite, a place to like actually have an email nurture sequence set up that you could send out to people. And I started the same way, probably from Amber's guidance, MailerLite and Teachable. And I'm finally moving out of those because they're more affordable. But I love what you're saying. Like, it doesn't have to be that complicated in the beginning. It could be as super simple as a worksheet on your website that's like for digital download or something.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
And the easier you make it, the more you will create. The more you complicate things with tech, you're going to spend so much time messing around with that tech that you're not going to spend time actually creating things that are helpful to people. Says the woman who just spent 2 hours setting up tech this morning.
I know. I'm like, only if I could listen to us talking now, that would probably be super helpful.
Right. I have to remind myself of these things too.
It's so easy to get bogged down in that stuff, thinking you've got to have the fanciest, like if it was just fancier, it'd be easier, that kind of thing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like how many things have you bought because you're like, this is going to solve a problem? And then it just turns into so many more problems.
Exactly. Then I'm spending like 20 hours trying to even learn how to do the stupid thing, or trying to find somebody that I can hire to help me learn how to do the stupid thing. Yeah. Totally. So when did you know things were like finally clicking, that you were building a business that supported your life instead of the other way around?
Oh gosh, I have the perfect memory. So I wasn't even really hardcore into side hustle stuff yet. I was still in my therapy practice, and I had hired a personal assistant, Kim Keller, who I love.
Yeah.
And she was helping me run my practice, but she was also helping me run my life. Like literally was finding dentists for me and like a hairdresser and setting up those appointments. And we would weekly have like a little staff meeting and like touch base on all the things. And one day I realized like, I don't have any appointments other than this meeting with Kim for the next 4 hours. I'm doing this from the pool.
Nice.
So I brought my little laptop out to the pool and we're having a staff meeting. And I'm like, this is the freaking life, man. I have arrived.
Oh, I love it so much. And what I'm hearing you say is outsourcing is the thing that actually gave you that moment that it was like, whoa, wait a second. I actually don't have to do all this on my own.
Oh my gosh. It was outsourcing, and it was taking advantage of the freedom that I had. Like, I could have, out of habit, had that meeting in my office and been locked in my guest room, but I didn't have to. Right in that moment, I could live with more freedom, and that was just, like, I try to remind myself of that all the time.
Yeah. Another thing that you do is you coach therapists, obviously, that want to build side hustles and other income streams. I've hired you over the years to help me with different things to learn how to scale up my practice or whatever I'm working on in my business. I wonder, like, maybe you could share some wins from one of your coaching clients recently that really stands out to just kind of like show us what can be done, especially if you hire like, a coach in your position that can help with the scaling and just like what other therapists are working on out there that's really working for them to help them get out of the one-to-one model. Because all I hear these days is how burnt out people are, how burnt out therapists are. Could you give us some like inspiration, some wins, some things that your clients have just been killing it on?
Yeah. Well, I'll say a win that I got from my own coaches that has really helped me reframe things, and then a couple wins from my own coaching clients. I remember when I paid my first like super big bucks for coaching, I was about to drop $16,000 on a coach, and I was, totally nauseous about it, but I really felt like this is the person that's going to help me. I used all their free content. And so I dropped the 16 G's and I'm feeling super sick to my stomach. And one of the first messages they gave me was some changes I should make to a sales page for my course and the reasoning behind that change. And that change alone ended up more than paying for the entire year of coaching. I mean, it was like within days. And that's so not the way it usually goes, but it was just in my head like, holy cow, ROI, Okay, so it makes sense when you're investing in the right people, even if it's big bucks, if you can project like, okay, if they only got me 4 more sales of this $4,000 product, I'll have paid for this. And it was like within a week. It was insane how quickly that happened. So that felt amazing. With my own coaching clients, there's almost like 2 levels of wins when I'm teaching people marketing and I see their very first post of, I had my free consultation, I said my rate, I paused, and they didn't even blink. They signed up and I got my first $300 private pay client or my first $150 private pay client. Like, I get goosebumps even thinking about it because it's just they didn't have to work through all the mindset stuff. They just had to follow the protocol and then bam, they get their client. And that's the treatment to the mindset. Like, if you see it happening, you can't keep telling yourself you're an imposter. Somebody's paying you $150 an hour. There, your mindset work is done. It's actually happening. Those are my very favorite.
Yeah, and just giving your therapist clients like the opportunity or the information enough to give them the empowerment to say, I'm going to charge this. And then I love how you said that pause thing. Like maybe you could just elaborate on that a little bit because I know that's one of the tools that you teach. Maybe that would help others.
Yeah, the pause. People talk about this a lot in my courses because it's so hard to do. But when you're in your free consultation, if your true intent is to find out if this is a good match, and if not, who is a good match for this person. If you stay grounded in that, you're never going to be coercive because you're truly looking out for the best interests of the client. So if you've gone through the whole free consult and you and they are feeling like, ooh, this is a good match, this feels like a soul level connection. When you then talk about fit in terms of schedule and pricing, I combine those. So it sounds like this. I will say, okay, so what we'll do next, because it sounds like here's the issue. You agree that's the issue. Here's what I think will be our line of treatment. This is an area of expertise for me, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yes, yes, yes. And then you're going to say, okay, so the way that this is going to work is our first session is going to be 90 minutes and it's a full workup. I'm going to ask you a bajillion questions and that's $300. And then our follow-up sessions will all be 50 minutes and we'll meet weekly. And those are whatever the price is, $200. My first availability for that 90-minute session is Monday the 3rd at 4. Does that time work for you? So we've given information, and then our question at the end is about schedule, not about price. If they come back and say, oh gosh, like I didn't realize it was going to be that much money, then you're just going to say, it is an investment. Tell me what's coming up for you. Be a therapist in the moment, right? And give them space to process. Don't reassure, don't coerce, just give them a chance to talk it out for themselves and you be quiet. You ask the question and then zip it and let them talk. Give them the pause to work out what they're thinking. And I've had so many clients that if I just keep my mouth shut and let them process, they process on their own. I had a client who said to me, she's like, "Whoa, that was a lot more than I expected it to be." Of course, inside I'm dying. But outside, I'm like, "It is an investment. Tell me what's coming up for you." She's thinking out loud, and eventually she's like, "You know what? I spend that much on shoes without blinking an eye, and I go shopping at least a couple times a month. So I guess I just need to put my money where my mouth is. And if I really am intent on working through this stuff, I've got to go for it." I didn't have to say anything, right? I just gave her the space to think it out.
That's amazing. Yeah,
It's
such
hard.
such good advice. It is hard. Don't do like I do and say, "Well, but if you can't afford it, I mean, we could talk about a lower rate." I try not to do that anymore. I definitely used to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I still struggle with that with coaching.
Yeah.
It's still hard.
Yeah, the dying inside. I could totally relate to that. It's like, just keep the poker face. You're good. So let's switch a little bit to a different topic because you are coaching therapists that are trying to start online practices for the very first time. And one of the biggest things that definitely comes up is documentation. I know you over the years, I've heard you talk about documentation and it was not your friend. And in your clinical work, it wasn't your friend. It kind of drove you crazy, the perfectionism and trying to make sure you're doing all the things right and all that. And I actually hear you promoting berries. I know you're not seeing clients right now, but I know that you're promoting berries. So I'd love to talk about that. Like, tell us what you're thinking about berries, why you promote berries, and just like the documentation piece.
For me, and I know a lot of therapists relate to this, we've had hundreds of people come to our notes parties where we work for like 8 hours and people are just catching up on notes. So I know I'm not alone when I say, like, I have always struggled to get my documentation done and done on time. And part of it is like this perfectionisty, I know what I want the note to be like. And then I never am going to have that time in the moment of working with the client. I have to go get a drink. I have to go to the bathroom. And so I put it off and I'm going to be in a different mood later. And I'll binge and watch Netflix and work on my notes. And then it's a whole freaking Sunday gone to writing notes. And are they ever as good as I want them to be? No, they're definitely not. So when I started seeing these AI companies come out with note writing software, I was actually first exposed to it in my own health appointments with doctors. And I'm tech. I love tech. So I was super intrigued. I'm like, heck yeah, you can use AI. Like, let's go. Even my vet is using AI to interpret x-rays. Yes. Like, yes, consent granted. So I knew, like, for me as a consumer of healthcare, that I do not care if they're using AI. I'm like 100%. I don't care. There's nothing I'm worried about somebody finding out. But I don't expect all therapy clients to feel the same way. So I didn't even think about it in therapy until I saw a demonstration of berries. And I think it was the first one I saw a demonstration of. The note that it was able to write was so much better than any note I have ever written in my life. And like from a liability point of view, from an insurance point of view, from a conceptual point of view, I mean, talk about turning our normal people language into therapist speak for the note. I was absolutely blown away by what it could do. So then I'm like, well, geez, like not only does it do it better than me, but it also does it way faster. And then there's also the opportunity to show it to the client, like in the moment and be like, does this feel like we're capturing the right things, right? Like, so it felt like it even made clinical care better. So then my only hesitation was hopefully what everybody's hesitation would be is around security and privacy. And I have learned over the years that people are allowed to say they're HIPAA compliant and there's no test. So I started looking at these AI companies with a little bit more suspicion. And you know me, I'm going to do some research on it and found that even though it's not the law yet, the industry standard is for there to be a third party that verifies HIPAA compliance. And Barry's had that. And then when I started going through my little list of, all right, is it doing this? Is it training large language learning models? No. Okay, cool. Is it, recording things and saving them indefinitely somewhere? No. Okay, cool. So I made my own little like checklist of what would be okay with me and what wouldn't. And Barry's passed with flying freaking colors. And then I started thinking about, okay, so how can I make sure that clients would understand what the risks and benefits are and clearly understand them. Because the reality is the legislation just hasn't caught up with the technology yet. And we can't be 1,000% confident of anything. And really, like, I've made my decision that in my practice, I think the risks are very minimum and I'm okay using it. And especially because it actually gets my freaking notes done, and the risks of them not getting done is way higher than any risks I see with using the software. But then it really has to be informing the client and then letting them decide. I have heard therapists, and I don't know how you feel about this, so weigh in, but I feel like pretty strongly about it. Therapists who are saying, if you're not cool with me using AI, then I just won't see you in my practice.
Right.
Friends, that's not HIPAA compliant. You can't be doing that shit. You have to have an opt-in rule when it comes to anything that is on the new frontier, right?
Right.
So even though Barry's is HIPAA compliant and they've got the BAA and they've got all the things and the third-party verification, I would still have my clients make the choice to opt in or not to using something that's more on the frontier, just so I can go to bed and feel good when I go to sleep at night.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And, I've seen different variations of that, but it's somebody, for instance, just posted in my AI Facebook group the other day. They said basically their client opted out of the recording, but they went further down their line. They were like, well, how do you feel about me dictating after the session into the AI software? Or how do you feel about me like putting a handwritten note, uploading handwritten text to the box to make AI do it? And they kind of went down that layer of consent with them too and made a decision that way. And they said it was okay. Please don't record it, but it's okay. Do you want to dictate later? That's totally fine with me. So they just kind of notated that in the consent, which
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that level because I have to write to process information. So I always write notes in sessions. And then the idea that I could just upload that.
Yep. Barry's has that, and a lot of them do. I don't want to always just promote Barry's, but Barry's has that place where you can just upload, translated text from one of those tablets or something, like handwritten tablets that just translates to text. You could just upload immediately to Barry's and it turns it into a note. Yeah.
Oh
So for
my
people that are like
gosh.
that have to write in session, there's just so many options. And I think that's important to differentiate with your clients. Like, okay, we don't have to record. That's totally fine. Here's some other options. And also, if you don't like any of those, we'll just do traditional. We don't have to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And even if it's one out of your 20 clients who says, I really don't want you to do that, you're still saving so much time a week.
Not to mention the treatment plans it generates. I mean, oh my God, I could just go on for days about how much I hate treatment plans. But anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Agree.
So all on board with Barry's or whatever AI tool like that can help you make your life just so much easier. Yeah. Love that. So I want to just go a little bit further into something a little bit different away from the AI piece. But another thing that you talk about a lot, since you are a marketing queen, you've got a marketing intensive that we could definitely share at the end for everybody. What's one thing that therapists misunderstand about marketing to private pay clients? That's really your specialty. I'm seeing this as a huge trend right now, right? Like everybody wants off of Headway, off of Alma. They don't want to take insurance. They want to be private pay. So as a marketing queen, what do you suggest that the one thing that therapists misunderstand most about marketing to private pay clients?
I insist on giving you two things.
Okay, yes, please. We love it. Give us all the things.
The most important thing is that the way that insurance-based clients shop for therapy is completely different than the way somebody who is willing to pay privately will shop for therapy. So thinking that all you have to do is get yourself on a directory and post on social media, that's not going to get you a caseload full of private pay clients because the buyer psychology is different for insurance folks and for private pay folks. If I'm paying out of pocket $200 a session, then I want like somebody who gets me down to my toes before they've really even met me. And I need to see that in their copy or, whatever it is that I'm reading about their practice. A directory listing just can't do that. They're not long enough. They're not specific enough. So that would be the number one thing of like, please don't give up on it. If all you've been doing so far is like sharing a link in some Facebook groups and then having a directory listing, it's not your fault that they're not calling. It's just not the right method for that type of buyer. And then the second thing, because this just drives me freaking bananas, is poor therapists feel like they have to go wild on social media and basically have like a part-time social media job or hire a VA to do their social media to fill their practice. And again, remember that influencers are the ones that are showing you that you have to be on social media all the time. People like me and Kim, we are trying to sell courses, memberships, coaching, business coaching. And the way you do that is completely different than the way that you fill a private pay practice. So the only reason that you need social media to fill a private pay practice is just to legitimize to Google that you are a real business, and I'll explain that in a sec. And, if your client finds you on your website or through a directory listing, they're going to Google you because that's what they do. And they just want to see that you exist in more than one place. That's it. They're not going to be looking through your profile like, did they post recently? They don't care. They're just like, oh, okay, you exist in multiple places. You're not catfishing me.
Right.
That's
right.
That's
Yeah.
all we're trying to do. It's a totally different way to market. And when I say social media to legitimize you to Google, all that means is having a Facebook business page or an Instagram page because it has naturally high organic SEO. All you gotta do is exist there. Put 10 posts up and leave it alone. That's good enough.
Yeah. And the longer they're out there, the more chance they're going to get crawled and added into search engines and that sort of thing. Yes.
Yes. One
Love
day
it.
you and I should talk about search engines with Google versus AI search engines.
I would love to. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'd love to talk about that. It's so interesting. Like I'm just seeing it more and more. People are like, guess how I got my latest client? ChatGPT. Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
So it's like, how are we routing our SEO to make sure ChatGPT is picking up on this SEO? Like, definitely.
I'm in the middle of making a whole mini course for it for the marketing intensive,
awesome.
so I'm deep in the weeds with it right now. It's
Oh
super
my gosh,
fun.
you'll have to come back and tell us some tips and tricks around that too. That's super interesting to me because I do like, of course, like ChatGPT is my default search engine now in my web browser, but it's like, I'm always curious, like, why is it this company that's coming up? But maybe if you go over to Google, that's not the first company that's coming up. So there's something happening.
Yes.
The ChatGPT is learning about it more than maybe some other companies that might have good SEO on Google. So I'll be super curious to hear about that.
So interesting. It's
put that
so
out.
interesting, and it's going to be so much easier to get found on, at least in this early stage before everybody's figured it out. It's going to be so much easier to get found because the way that AI searches is just so much more user friendly.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You have to come back and talk about that. So one thing I have heard you teach about, like around marketing and stuff, is like this, or mentioned it, that you can turn therapy worksheets into marketing tools. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh my gosh. Basically, I learned this from Kim because Kim back in the day, she was one of the first people to ever create a hypnotherapy podcast. So like mindfulness and stuff like that. So she basically took what she was doing in therapy and then turned it into a freaking side hustle. Right? Like, so you tell them how you did that. Throw it back on you.
Oh gosh. Well, are you talking about my apps I made that market it back to me? Oh my gosh. This is such a story. Yeah. I mean, I was doing hypnotherapy. I was doing like meditations and all that with my clients over and over and over again. Like everybody wanted help with like overeating or they couldn't sleep. But, there was like these repetitive themes that my clients are having. And I was like, well, I'm a hypnotherapist. I guess I could record these for you and you could take them with you and listen to them when you're not with me. And then, I was like, wait a second. What if I tried to sell these? And this was in 2008. So this is when the App Store had just come out, the iTunes App Store, and then the Google App Store came shortly after that. And Etsy was around, so I was like, okay, I'm going to record these things. And literally I recorded these things on, God, what was that? GarageBand? Do you remember GarageBand?
Yeah.
I had the GarageBand microphone and I was sitting in my living room and I was recording these sessions into MP3 downloads basically. And decided I was going to start an app. So I outsourced. I found somebody he was in India that built apps really cheap. But, I hate to say that, but that's true. That's what I did. And found the guy and he built these apps for me for all of the app stores, including BlackBerry. This is when their BlackBerries had an app store. I even had a BlackBerry app, if you could believe that.
Amazing.
And I put it out there and it was the first to second hypnosis app on the App Store. Now if you go, there's Insight Timer and, just all these really, I kind of let it fall off the radar for me. I really should have stayed on top of it. But anyway, I was the second MP3 seller in the App Store for hypnosis for many, many years. And it was, it was one of the top apps. And I mean, I was making $20,000 months on these
Stop.
No, I'm dead serious on these MP3 hypnosis downloads. Yeah. And then I just got caught up in my own private practice and, just all this other stuff. And I kind of just like didn't pay attention to it. And of course, now the app market is so like inundated with just 1,000 of these things. Mine just kind of like slowly fell down, but I still have an Etsy store where I sell them. Yeah, so that's my story. But all that to say, based on what Amber was saying, like if you've got this niche, like there's always something you can do with it and give away for free, like on your website or through a free podcast or something to just organically attract. And I still have people today saying, like emailing me and saying, I had your sleep soundly hypnosis in the Apple App Store. Now I can't find it. Where is it? I'm like, okay, it's over on Etsy now. You can get it over there. Like literally people still email me about this. And that was like
That is so wild.
2008. Yeah.
Guys,
It's crazy.
talk about, seriously. So listen to the themes in the story here. She was helping her clients just like you guys do. And she thought, I could give this to them for on the go. So you can create a worksheet for your clients and give it to them for free. But why not also have it on your website and people can have it if they give you their email address? Because I do think little like sideways related to marketing, I do think email lists are going to be pretty important for therapists over the next 5+ years. So going ahead and starting to get people on that list. And then, I saw Katie Keats May doing this way back in the day. She fills groups and she just sends an email out to her list and she's like, hey gang, we're starting a new group around this time. Here's what it's about. Join if you want. And she has kept them full. So email lists are fantastic. You have a spot opening up. You're like, hey, in 3 weeks, we'll have a spot opening up. If you want it, let me know.
That's right. The email list is key to all of this stuff, like building an audience. And that's one mistake I did make with those apps. I never collected email addresses. It was just like literally all through the App Store and that sort of thing. So I didn't even know about that stuff at the time.
Yeah, I don't even know if anybody knew about it back then.
Yeah, it's like, maybe I should be like keeping the stuff, track of the stuff. But anyway, so that's my long story of how you guys could use that even in your own practice today.
Yeah. And if you're like most therapists, you're going to perfectionize the shit out of it. So please don't do that. Just make a freaking Google Doc. Just make it a Google Doc. You don't even know if people are going to like it yet. See if people like it. And then you can perfectionize later.
And honestly, those recordings, I still sell those recordings that were recorded on my GarageBand, like in my living room. And they're not the greatest quality, really, but they still sell.
Well, I've downloaded them and listened to them. And I never would have thought that they were recorded, in some way that wasn't uber fancy pants.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely were. In fact, I had the flu when I recorded a lot of those. There was like a bird flu going around. I was sick for like 3 weeks and I'd like stuck in my house. That's when I recorded a lot of those, which is kind of funny, but yeah.
I love this about Kim and about a lot of therapreneurs. If you're willing to take fast action on an idea, you will be successful.
Thank you. Yeah. I am a little bit of a quick start. Probably too quick.
You are.
So you kind of alluded to this when you were just talking, like now is the best time, more important than ever, probably to have some other thing in your back pocket like this. I really do believe that, especially with AI coming on the scene. And whether we like it or not, there are AI therapists out there, and there's a lot of statistics around people using AI as their therapist and that sort of thing. So I feel even more passionately and strongly now about helping therapists like have other income streams kind of coming around. And I just wonder, like, do you have any advice? I know we kind of touched on that already about like the tech piece and try not to stress too much about it, but like, do you have advice? Like, if I had to start today and just have some other thing in my back pocket as this AI revolution is taking over, like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. And I 100% agree with you. I think it's a real good time to think about how can we make sure we have diverse streams of revenue coming in? Because, I just talked to somebody the other day and she's like, AI is a trend. And I'm like, oh, you don't understand. Like, it's already infiltrated everything. It's here to stay. It's like the internet, not a trend. It's going to change the course of the world. And like many people I know, I also have used AI for a little therapeutic support every now and then.
It's like, help me. I'm like freaking out. I need help right now. I don't have time to like find a therapist, schedule a therapist, go to an appointment, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Right. And it can be hugely supportive when used right. So I think instead of thinking, how do I hold on tight to my job and protect my job? I would be thinking about how can I continue to be who I am, a helpful human being with a lot of like earned expertise in life and through my graduate degree. How can I leverage that into additional ways to help people, period? And what we're seeing, it's so nicely timed that the more normal and raw you are in the ways that you're helping, like in YouTube, nobody wants any polished YouTube videos anymore. They want to see
Yeah.
that they're connecting with a real person, because AI is kicking out all these hyper polished videos. And so nobody knows, like, is this real? Is this not? They want to see a real human being. They want to connect to a real human being. And I think we're going to be, and this is just me guessing, I think things are going to be selling in the side hustle world largely based on you finding your tribe, which means you're going to have to be outspoken about what you believe. Not
Yes.
teaching like random CBT protocols, because we can all find that in ChatGPT now. But
Exactly.
adding your
Exactly.
special, personality twist and your beliefs and your values, because there are other people out there just like you, and they're looking for you, somebody like them, to
Yeah.
support them.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like I could talk about this stuff all day.
Me too.
So I always, at the end of this podcast, like to just do kind of a lightning round and just ask some like real quick questions and just see what your thoughts are about a couple things. So what is one tool or boundary or something that you just cannot live without right now that's really helping you in your life and your day-to-day?
ChatGPT. I mean, many hours every single day. Kim taught me how to create ChatGPT bots. And once you understand how to work with ChatGPT, you're going to save hours a day and create better work. And I feel like my work is better than it has ever been. And I'm getting it done more quickly, and I'm able to do more cool stuff. I use it for everything.
Same. Yeah. Talking about GPTs, I mean, I have literally built an army and they do everything for me. I'm with my dad right now who's elderly and needing help. I mean, I've got a GPT for him, like, his medical stuff. I mean, it just goes on and on. The level of support you can get just in your life just make everything so much
Absolutely.
easier. I really agree with you.
Absolutely. Even with, I mean, I don't know that enough people are thinking about it the way you just described, about using it for things like that. I had a GPT for my dogs who were elderly and going, they were in hospice level care for dogs, and the amount of comfort and support that I was able to give to them, like medically and even with their food and timing vet visits, all of it, the questions I knew to ask at the vet that I otherwise wouldn't have known. I just feel like it gave them the highest possible quality of life in the last 6 months of their lives. And I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah, and it's so much different than like Google. It's like, look, I'm getting ready to call this nurse right now. Like, what am I supposed to ask? And like, tell me
Yeah.
why I'm asking this instead of,
Yeah.
just Googling like, what questions do you ask about whatever, diabetes or whatever? It's like, yeah, amazing. Next lightning question. What is the best advice you've ever received as a business owner or therapist?
This was like something I pulled from lots of people, but it was basically this: know what your why is and know what your values are. And that will help you make every single decision from there. If I know my why is about having more flexibility and freedom, but I find myself chasing money, I'm like, wait a minute. Like, you might just be doing this thing because this is what other entrepreneurs do, but this isn't actually your why. Your why is about freedom and flexibility. So that's going to change the way that I run things in my business and the decisions that I make. So even with like sponsors and things like that have approached me, who have been like, we'll pay you a whole bunch of money, like promote our thing. And it is extremely tempting. And then if I check in on my values and I'm like, okay, wait, I want to be the person helping therapists to make decisions. And if I'm saying I'll only promote this one product in EHRs, for example, that doesn't totally vibe with my value set of helping therapists make decisions if I'm like, this one and only this one.
Exactly. And I'm not going to talk about another one. And this is the only one you
Right.
should choose. Right.
Right. It makes decisions just much easier.
And last question. You and I are both pretty nomadic and we like to travel and live our best lives in different places. So what is a favorite place to work from that makes you feel most alive?
Oh gosh, that's going to change on the season. Right now,
Here
I'm
we go.
obsessed with my back porch because we just moved into this house over the last year.
Yeah.
And so I have all these tropical plants and fairy lights and like an orchid tree, and it's just beautiful. And to be able to sit and look at this jungle just makes me so happy. So I lay out there in my little chair, my little table, and have a fan on me because it's Florida. But we're just about to take our van and go back out west. And, I'm packing my Elon Musk satellite and all of that stuff. Like, I'm going to get to work from the road. And working from the road is just one of the most amazing feelings ever, like we're able to live our whole dream life, and I'm going to just pop up a satellite on the roof of our van and work from anywhere.
So fun. Thank you for being here. And I would love if you would just share, how do people find you? How do they work with you? How do they learn how to market with you? All of the good things.
Yeah, so my website's amberlyda.com. It's Lyda, and that has virtually everything that you could possibly need on there. But I will admit that some of it needs to be updated. So if you have follow-up questions, you can just email us. It's dr.amberlyda@gmail.com. And I teach people how to build an online practice in step-by-step. My course, I teach them how to market to private pay clients in the Marketing Intensive, which is a 12-week intensive. You're going to know how to market. And then I am just about to launch a side hustle school called Freedom Seeker School. So we'll be adding people into that to learn how to build a side hustle as a therapist.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming today. Such valuable information.
It's so nice to get to hang out with you.
Me
And
too.
like every time we talk, I hear another thing about your entrepreneurial story. I'm like, oh my gosh, such badass.
You're a badass.
I love
too.
it.